Good looking. Lay it off. Touchdown! Hat-trick! Now you're set to for Cressel. Made it to Elliott. Oh, that was the time. Julian Carnell. A spectacular finish. Philadelphia does its way.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And I'll be honest with you guys, I was like, do I remember how to start the podcast? But we're here after 2 weeks. Has it been 2 weeks now since the podcast? A week since the podcast? I don't know. I've lost track of time with being in Denver all of last week, appearing on AAT Sports Across the Pitch last night with Mike Barrera and Kyle Almany. And now here we are, back with another edition of the Free Kick Podcast to talk about last night's Philadelphia Union vs. Charlotte FC match, which was a chaotic, emotional night, seeing the Union crawl back, 98th minute, game-winning goal by Markus Anderson. And yeah, last night was special. Last night was fun. Had a blast being back at Subaru Park. And now Union fans get to be home for the next 3 games, right? The next 3 Philadelphia Union games are all on the road, and we'll see the Union go on and take Chicago Fire on Wednesday, June 25th, and then Sunday, June 29th against Columbus Crew, and then July 5th, they take on Nashville, and then the Union are back home on July 9th on Wednesday against New York Red Bulls in U.S. Open Cup, and then on July 12th, also against New York Red Bulls in MLS play. So, yeah, I mean, what a way to end the home stretch, the 1-game home stretch for a couple of weeks now. And so happy to see a Philadelphia Union win. And I'm sure all of you guys last night that attended Subaru Park, you guys watched it on Apple TV, MLS Season Pass. You guys were probably happy to see a Philadelphia Union win. Good to see Michael here in the comments, says Todd the God. Shout out to Chris and Danny from the Battered Herons for that nickname. Mike Barrera, Toddington Lewis in the house. Valerie says Todd Father. Nice to see you guys in the comments. Thank you guys for showing up, and don't forget to spread the news, spread the word that we are live, as we are every single podcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I think that's every place where we're live. So yeah, live, and I'm appreciating all you guys joining. But Mike Barrera gave me the opportunity last night to talk about my trip in Denver, and so why not do that here on this show as well? Maybe go a little bit longer, even though I don't think you guys are here to hear about Denver. But if you guys paid attention to my stories or Jem Torgar, who I went on the trip from, my buddy from England, he was posting a lot of stuff too. And then I wound up putting, I think, 20 pictures up online on Instagram, just highlighting that trip. And that was an unreal trip, visiting 8 cities, 8 towns, whatever you want to call them. And going to Glenwood Hot Springs, which is about 2 hours, 30 minutes west of Denver. So driving through the mountains. I went out to Denver 2 years ago with my sister, Kyle and Jillian Almany. We went out there for the Philadelphia Union Colorado Rapids game. And this time was straight vacation, no soccer involved. And yeah, so I never got the opportunity to drive through the mountains, drive up the mountains. And yeah, that was really cool, still seeing snow on the mountains. Because when you fly into Denver, you still see the snow on the mountains. And so I'm thinking, yeah, that's just way too far away. I'm not going to be able to go up and close and see snow. And yeah, sure enough, when I'm going out to Glenwood to go to the hot springs, yeah, you got it as close as can be. Jillian Almany joining in here saying, hello from halftime at Subaru Park. Union 2 scoreless. Just wanted to check in and say hi. Hello, Jillian. Let us know how many people would you say are in the in Subaru Park as fans, and then in the press box. I know those games don't get a lot of traction. Valerie says good vibes in San Jose too after 5-0 USA win over Trinidad and Tobago. And yeah, that is a big result for the US after they had lost their last 4 matches, I do believe. Valerie says that great vibes at the Sub were evident streaming through the TV. Dan Herman joins in, says, I'm not saying this team is destiny, but ... Yeah, a lot of great comments coming in so far, guys. Again, spread the word. Let you guys carry the show, not me. But yeah, going to smaller cities, going back to Denver, Vail, Frisco, these cities, these towns had like 1,000, 2,000 people living in them, and yeah, they're ski towns, and so when it's not ski season, they're pretty deserted. A lot of restaurants and whatnot seem to be shut down, or at least when me and Jem went up there on Sunday. But yeah, Denver was unbelievable, and being able to just see wildlife, nature, hiking, a lot of hiking. Went out to Garden of the Gods, Red Rocks. Went out to Boulder. I forget the place that we went in Boulder. It's a name that I can't say. It begins with a C. Maybe I'll put it in the comments for you guys. But yeah, just a lot of amazing views. And it's interesting because when we went out to Boulder, that's my favorite part of Colorado that I've been to. It's absolutely stunning in Boulder. If nobody in the comments has been out to Denver, if you guys haven't been to Colorado, I would highly, 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 highly recommend going to Boulder. So much to do in that town. That is where the University of Colorado is. And so, yeah, you saw a lot of people repping their CU gear, the buffs. But yeah, when Jim and I went out hiking in Colorado to Boulder, I did that with Kyle and Jillian Almany, and I went to a part of the mountains that I had never done before. And we went up, I think, 7,200 feet in the air, which was the highest I've ever hiked before, and just overlooking just the land, overlooking the city of Boulder, and just being in nature. Yeah, that was an unbelievable view. Getting to see the Continental Divide was so cool, and a lot of local people like out there are just so nice, and they'll give you tips and everything. They'll give you history lessons. And this older gentleman that we met on the trail, he's like, yeah, when you get up there higher, you're going to see the Continental Divide. And yeah, I was like, I didn't even know that. And so that was so cool having him point that out, and watching people like legitimately rock climb up higher rocks that Gemini didn't climb up. But yeah, it was so cool being out in nature. And so perfect weather. We stayed in I guess part of Denver, north of Denver, still technically Denver, but the neighborhood was called Low High. Super expensive neighborhood. Would not recommend going out to any of those restaurants because they put a 20% tax on all food. So that doesn't include the tip. You're paying tip, this 20% tax, and then however much your drink and food costs and everything. And I'm like, nope, we're not going out here to eat, because I was like, this is unbelievable. But yeah, beautiful neighborhood, and a 10-15 minute walk to downtown Denver. Denver, absolutely stunning itself, just so walkable. And it is nice being in a place that you don't have to rely on a car if you don't have it. You can use your legs or public transportation, which Jim and I never took advantage of. But yeah, it's there if you want it. So love Denver. Highly recommend you guys going out if you haven't been there. Dan says, Colorado been on my short list for a long time. I hear they make beer there. Yeah, right. Coors, right? Coors beer, right? I don't drink alcohol, so I did not partake in that or smoking or anything like that. And it's funny, people that I ran into, they're like, "How are you so happy? You don't do anything." And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just a happy person. And they're like, "Yeah, I guess you're just high on life." It might be that, or it might be that the Philadelphia Union are absolutely rolling. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that. Last night's 2-1 come from behind victory against the Charlotte FC, against Charlotte FC. Union obviously are in the lead to start this game. Jesus Bueno scores a golazo of a goal right before the half to put the Union up 1-0. Wilfried Zaha comes out and scores to make it 1-1. And then you have Markus freaking Anderson, 98th minute winner. And it's really the story of two of the most unlikeliest players who score goals for the Union last night, and big players stepping up in big moments. And it's just unbelievable to see this effort, to see Markus Anderson. Let's not forget that it's almost been a year since he was banished last year from Jim Curtin from the first team because of his mistake against FC Cincinnati, where he could have played the ball into Quinn Sullivan. Quinn Sullivan could have been in, and maybe Quinn Sullivan would have scored to make it 4-3 for the Union. Instead, Anderson gives the ball away, and Cincinnati get right down and score the game-winning goal with Lucho Acosta and win that game 4-3. Jim Curtin doesn't bring him back up for the first team, and he spends much of the season with the second team. And he was injured a lot last year, fought through injuries this year. This is a player that has been through a lot. He's still young. Let's not forget that. Markus Anderson, still a very young player for the Union at 21 years old. Remember, he had a unique career starting in the 4th division, I believe it was, in Spain. Yes, is American. And for Ernst Tanner to be able to find this guy in such a low division, and I guess that's not a surprise when you see how Ernst Tanner, since he's been a part of the Union since 2018, how he's built this team. He brings in players that nobody's ever heard of. And we've seen it all season long. The St. Louis City game sticks out to me, where so many players were away for international duty. The Union come out, win that game 1-0 thanks to a Jan Glavinovic goal. We saw it last year against Portland, where players are hurt, players are away on international duty, and the Union go into Portland, win that game. And so it's something about this team, and more so this year than last, where just everything is going the Union's way. And it doesn't matter who's starting for the Union. It doesn't matter who's coming off the bench. Players are contributing. And I think that's why fans are just so excited. And a big moment for Markus Anderson, who had scored against Atlas last week in the friendly. And the week prior to that, he scored for Union too. And now he gets rewarded with a chance. Tai Baribo and Mikael Uhre, both unavailable, out due to injury. We'll talk about Tai Baribo here in a bit. But Markus Anderson gets a chance to come off the bench. Chris Donovan, first player to come off the bench for the Union to start the second half, and has a big opportunity in the 73rd minute to put this game away, to make it 2-0. Misses that chance. Great through ball by Jacob Glesnes. And Chris Donovan, all he has to do is put it past the goalkeeper's right. Instead, kicks it right at the goalkeeper. And this is why fans, I get it, are annoyed with Chris Donovan, say he's not an MLS player. I got shredded on social media. I talked about it here on the podcast. You know, he gives effort and everything, the work he does off the ball. Bradley Carnell actually talked about that during his midweek press conference, saying that Chris deserves to have 5 or 6 goals this season because of how much he does off the ball, winning the ball back, tracking back. And he was responsible, or partially responsible, for the goal that Wilfried Zaha scored. He's out of position. Indiana Vassila presses the ball, and Chris Donovan just not close to Abada. Abada plays the ball out wide, right? And then it's a cross in by Marshall Ruddy into Wilfried Zaha, who maybe gets away with a push on Frankie Westfield. After you guys check out this podcast, make sure you check out the goals breakdown video. I'll be sure to upload that to YouTube right after we end this live. But yeah, Chris Donovan, huge opportunity in this game and is unable to put it away. And so, again, I get why fans are upset with Chris Donovan. They don't want to see Chris Donovan anymore. Does Markus Anderson start to take minutes away from Chris Donovan because he gets a chance and he puts it in the back of the net? It's a good finish by Markus Anderson, right? He hits it on the volley, hits the ball into the ground, and it nutmegs Marshall Ruddy. And then the goalkeeper for Charlotte, Jason Bigham, he can't get to it. And it's literally the last kick of the game. It's a huge moment for Markus Anderson to step in and to be entrusted by Bradley Carnell. And we'll talk about that here in a bit, how Bradley Carnell trusts this entire roster. But it's a big moment for Markus Anderson, who, remember, hasn't played in almost a year since that Cincinnati game. And he finally gets an opportunity because of injuries, because of a short bench. And he takes a huge opportunity and rises to the occasion. Valerie says, I can't really see from the MLS season pass view, but it looks like an average attendance at the Union 2 game. Daniel says, Anderson may have made up for the game in Cincy last year. Valerie says, Anderson redemption. Michael says, after seeing what he did for the Atlas game, it would have been a crime not to get him some minutes again, especially with Ty and Mika out. Dan Herman says, what is reasonable expectations for the Baribo situation? If you stay till the whole show, Dan, we'll talk about that here in a bit. Valerie says, I hope he gets out of Israel safely. And Michael says, I would say yes, absolutely. And so, yeah, I mean, a big moment for Markus Anderson. You look at the chance for Bruno Damiani before Jesús Bueno scores in the 43rd minute. The Union really did struggle to create a ton of meaningful chances in this game. And that's not a knock on the Union. That's more so a credit to Charlotte for how disciplined they are defensively under Dean Smith. They don't lose their shape. They sit really deep. And then they try to hit you on counterattacks. And yeah, this isn't the style of play a lot of people want to see. They don't want to see teams that park the bus. And, you know, people that face the Union would say, yeah, this isn't the style of play they want to see. They don't want to see a pressing style of team, a team that's going to rough you up and everything. Different managers have different ways how they want to approach the game. And the Union, to their credit, they came into this game, played a 4-2-3-1 formation because of players out, one striker up top. At times, it looked like Indiana Vassilev was playing as that second striker next to Bruno Damiani. Damiani, for most of this game, I thought was dropping a little bit too deep. So the Union didn't have that outlet pass up top. But look, the Union found a way to win. Damiani gets that chance in the 43rd minute. It's a great chance created by Ben Bender on the left-hand side of the field. And then Damiani kicks it straight at the goalkeeper. And again, fans get disappointed. They get angry with Chris Donovan not finishing off his chances. I've seen people on social media say the same thing about Bruno Damiani not finishing off those chances. And my argument would be, and I get it, when he's the highest transfer paid for a player in Philadelphia Union history, yeah, I get it, right? That you want to see him finish off those chances more than what he's doing, but at least he is getting in position. That would be my argument. 16 appearances so far out of a possible of 18 games in MLS, has scored 2 goals. And yeah, it's not great return for what you pay to get him from Nacional. But look, we know it's hard for players to adjust to MLS in the first season. We saw it with Daniel Gazdag, and when he came back for his second season, yeah, he lit the world on fire in 2022, was up there for the Golden Boot race, and was a big part of the success the Union had to reach MLS Cup in 2022. I'm not saying that Bruno Damiani can hit those heights, but we've seen it so many times in MLS that, some players take longer to adjust to MLS than others. Mikael Uhre, when he was brought in by Brøndby, it just seemed like he clicked right away with Julian Kranza and Daniel Gazdag. 13 goals, I think he scored in his debut season in MLS play. So it is frustrating to see Damiani not find the back of the net, but he is finding the space. He is creating chances for his team. I thought the goal that the Union scored with Jesús Bueno, it started with Damiani, right? You had Damiani getting the pass from Olivier Mbaizo. Andrew Rick started that play, playing out of the back, finds Olivier Mbaizo on the right side of the field. Damiani drops a little bit deep and then looks out to his left and sees Kai Wagner in a whole bunch of space. And so, yes, Damiani may not be scoring, but he is linking out well with his teammates, and I get it. You pay your strikers to score goals, but he is indeed doing the little stuff off the ball that's making a difference. And so your strikers aren't scoring. You get a goal from, I don't know what we classify Markus Anderson as. Is he a striker? Is he a number 10? He has been playing as a number 10 with Union too. He was a winger when he was playing in Spain. He's a player that I think can play multiple different positions. And you see Jesús Bueno, a player that is taking advantage of Denley John Jock being away on international duty, a player that people were questioning, all right, what's his chance of getting game time this year? He hasn't been playing. And then you see with injuries, you see with international duties, he's getting those opportunities. And he makes good off of a huge opportunity last night. It's a beautiful goal that Jesús Bueno scores. Poor defending by Charlotte. And the Union take advantage of 2 poor mistakes, I would say, by Charlotte, a team that doesn't really give up too many chances, a team that's not going to make those mistakes defensively. The Union in the right place at the right time. Valerie chimes in here. Goal for Union 2. I would assume they're up 1-0 now. She says off of a corner kick. And so, yeah. Damiani, big chance miss. Chris Donovan, big chance miss. That was the 2 biggest chances in this game missed for the Union. Thank goodness the chance that Chris Donovan didn't finish. Thank goodness Charlotte didn't score on that play. It could have been 1-1. Kai Wagner hustles back and puts in a tackle to put the ball out for a corner kick. Union outshoot Charlotte in this game 19-8. Union had 9 shots on target to Charlotte's 2. One player too. I think Olivier Mbaizo was really, really poor in this game. Only played the first half, and then Frankie Westfield comes in. Too many turnovers by Olivier Mbaizo, and I think it's pretty clear to all that he was a player that, yeah, is clearly the third choice right back. Seeing people say, Cole says it was called back, no goal. Valerie says boo. But Olivier Mbaizo, just not good last night. Too many turnovers with his passing. Got caught off high on the field way too much, and then other players had to cover for him. I think Jacob Glesnes was excellent on the night. I think Oluwatu Makanya was also good. So I mean, when Mbaizo was getting beat, when he was giving the ball away on the right side of the field, you had players stepping up, big, correcting those mistakes. You have right here Michael saying defense was pure class last night. I think so too. Absolutely. Dan says that Olivier was rusty. And this was his first start in MLS since March 22nd against St. Louis City. He's had appearances in US Open Cup and whatnot, but yeah, his first start since March 22nd. That's a long time for Olivier Mbaizo to finally make his start in MLS play. And I mean, we were talking about it a couple weeks ago. Is Mbaizo potentially a player that you try to get a trade for? Do you try to get rid of Olivier Mbaizo? But with Nathan Harriel away now at the U.S. With U.S. men's national team at the Gold Cup, which Valerie had said the U.S. won today 5-0, and you need that depth. You need players that can fill in, and that's exactly what Olivier Mbaizo is. He's not a starting quality right back on this team. Maybe he is someplace else in MLS, but definitely not with the Philadelphia Union. And so you do have good competition between Frankie Westfield and Nathan Harriel, and so I would expect Frankie probably goes back to starting at right back once the Union come back to play, not this week, but the following week against Chicago. But yeah, a pretty poor game, in my opinion, from Olivier Mbaizo. Jesús Bueno, Bradley Carnell didn't give an update for his injury. He pulled his hamstring and then he tried to give it a go. And then you saw on the broadcast, he signals for a substitution. Bradley Carnell said he didn't have an update. He was getting an update after his press conference. And so I would imagine whenever the Union come back from their from their 5-day break, because it's a mandatory break that MLS has to do because of the CBA, we'll see what happens with Jesus Bueno. Hopefully the injury is not too serious. A little bit surprised too that the Union made him available to speak to the media, even though he was injured, which I can't recall the last time I've seen the Union bring out a player that was injured to speak to the media. Maybe it's because he scored a goal, but where was Jose Nunez when you needed him to translate last night? And yeah, hopefully Jose, by the way, hopefully Jose and I don't know, we'll see. Maybe we do an episode sometime later in the week, but Jose will be back on the show at some point. Jose's been doing a fantastic job with his coverage. I mean, the dude, I swear, in the last week has had like 10 to 15 posts on Substack, had a interview with Jamin Moore, who's a super, super, super analytical nerd with Analytic Evolved, I believe the website is. I'll go ahead and double check. I'll put it in the show description, but I know he covers San Jose Earthquakes, and yeah, it's a really good interview that Jose had. They talk about Carnell ball this season and just why the Union have had success. So really good interview to check out. If you guys haven't checked that out already, I'll leave a link to that in the show description. But see you guys all talking about Union 2 right here. Dan says, bring in Bradesio. Oh, wait. And Jarrett says, I've been missing my weekly fix of Free Kick podcast. Yeah, it's back. It's back. And I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same way. So Free Kick podcast is live. And I don't think I have any more vacations planned for a little bit now. So we should get back to being consistent with weekly podcasts. Michael says, Mbaizo dribbled right off the sidelines last night. Oh my gosh, you are absolutely right. I said, are you serious right now? Signs of Andrew Ranger just taking the ball out of play. Like, what are we doing? It looked like the Union were potentially building something good, and they're playing out of the back. They find Olivier Mbaizo around the halfway line, and then he just takes the ball out of bounds. I'm like, what are we doing? Terrible, terrible, terrible performance. Ben Bender, I want to highlight him too, by the way. We talked about Jacob Glesnes, Oluwatu Makanya. I mean, so many good performances last night, but Ben Bender should have had an assist last night in the pass that he played to Bruno Damiani. I thought he was excellent last night. And, you know, Jim Curtin would always say, you don't want to mess with the back line. You don't want to make too many subs. And the Union sub out Bender in the 77th minute. A minute later, Wilfried Zaha scores to make it 1-1. And I do think when you brought in Jeremy Raffanello, you lose a little bit of your defensive shape. And yes, you try to give as much information on the sideline as you can. But, you know, Raffaello was only out there for less than a minute, and yeah, he wasn't at fault totally for this game for that goal. But you do change your structure a little bit. You change the pressing cues when you're subbing guys out, and you're trying to get as much information. And so I do wonder, okay, if you would have kept Bender out there a little bit longer, did the Union concede that goal to Wilfried Zaha? I talked about it 10, 15 minutes ago where you go back and watch it. Wilfried Zaha does get away with a push on Frankie Westfield. I said this in my goals breakdown video. If Frankie Westfield falls down on that play, did they call the goal back? Credit to Frankie for not falling down, for staying strong. But there was a little bit of a push by Wilfried Zaha on that play. And so, yeah, I'll be curious to see what happens for that. I mean, Wilfried Zaha probably won't get fined for that, but did the Union concede if they don't change the defensive structure? Maybe not, but I guess we'll never know because the game happened in the past, and we'll see what happens with this team going forward with making substitutions. I mean, sometimes they're going to work out, sometimes they're not going to work out, and it's just unfortunate that the Union conceded when they did, bringing off Ben Bender. But yeah, I thought he played well against his former club. I think he probably felt like he had a little something to prove from the team that waived him this season for the player that he was going against last night, Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy. And I think Bender, for the most part, got the better of Marshall-Ruddy. And to see him play now in 2 consecutive games, 2 consecutive starts, hopefully he's a player that continues to make the most of his opportunities. Let's not forget that he's only here through the 2025 season, and I'd imagine that he's not on a high salary, which, by the way, I'm not sure why the MLSPA hasn't released their salary guide for 2025 yet. Usually that's out, but yeah, I mean, there's so many questions I have for, okay, what players are on? What are the Union paying Jan Glavinovic? What are they paying Bruno Damiani? What are they paying a Ben Bender? What are they paying a Alejandro Badura since they brought him back? So many questions, and I'll be curious to see what so many players for the Union are on this season. Michael chimes in, says, Dean sounded pretty bitter in the post game last night, was asked about Bender, had literally nothing to say. Oh, I got to go back and listen to that. That's, I did not know he was asked about that. So good shout right there, Michael. I'm going to star that so I don't forget about that. Valerie says, I never noticed what a baby Zaha is when he was at Crystal Palace. I liked him then. We'll talk about Zaha a little bit later on, Valerie. Glad you brought him up. Maybe you guys read the description on YouTube, so you guys know what I'm going to talk about later. But yeah, I was shocked by the antics from Wilfried Zaha last night. We talked about Markus Anderson. We talked about players stepping up. Yeah, let's go ahead and hear what Bradley Carnell had to say last night about Markus Anderson's performance, finally getting the opportunity, and just the Union 2 guys, how difficult it is for them in training, and then when they get given the opportunity, them taking advantage of it.
Yeah, it's not easy for those guys, They train with us, they empty the tank early in the week, and then, when we trim the team down to like 20 players for the roster Thursday, Friday, you can either be demoralized and go down with your tail between your legs to Union 2 and play, or you commit to the process and the journey. And I think you see the way we've rotated in the month of May. I think you've seen the way we've started different players. I think we've been bold and brave enough to play different players in different positions and what have you. So everyone knows they have to stay dialed in because they could be coming. So credit to Ryan, the same alignment, the philosophy, so we're all working very well, connected with each other, and the roots are deep. and I think you can see that with everyone who plays.
Yeah, he's absolutely right that it's got to be difficult for these Union 2 guys when they break the roster down to 20 players and have to tell guys, yeah, sorry, you didn't make the match day squad. Yeah, you've been practicing hard in practice, and it's unfortunate that we can't put you on the bench for this week, or we can't put you in the starting 11, but keep working hard for your opportunity, and that time will come. And that's exactly what happened with Markus Anderson. Mikal Uhr, Tai Baribo, both guys out. We see Eddie Davis make the bench for the first time in his Union career last night. Isaiah LaFleur makes the bench for the Union. Neil Pierre, the bench last night for the Union really screamed Union 2. The only players that you didn't use last night were Oliver Zemla, LaFleur, Neil Pierre, and Eddie Davis. But you bring in a Kevin Sullivan, Jeremy Raffaello, Markus Anderson, Chris Donovan, Frankie Westfield. And I would say out of the only players on that list last night that are Union 2 guys are Kevin Sullivan and Markus Anderson. Raffanello and Chris Donovan and Frankie Westfield, I would say, are all graduated from playing with the second team. But yeah, again, you have players that are given opportunities, they step up, and they reward you for giving them a chance, giving them that belief. And Markus Anderson is the latest player to take advantage of that start, of that opportunity by Bradley Carnell. Steve says after the match, Ben expressed a lot of satisfaction starting against North Carolina against Charlotte. And yeah, I actually talked to Ben Bender. By the way, I do want to say, you guys, all your support reading my Ben Bender article. Thank you guys. My most read article. A lot of fun talking to Ben Bender, telling his story growing up, playing in Maryland, and then making it all the way professionally. So all of you guys that read that a few weeks ago, that continue to read that, thank you, thank you, thank you. Means a lot. Caught up with Ben after the game, and yeah, he was happy playing against Andrew Privet. Both of those guys played locally here in Maryland. Highlighted Andrew a little bit in my piece when I interviewed Ben. But yeah, I joked with Ben and I said, I don't know if you guys noticed this at the stadium, but every time during the national anthem, when they get to the O part, you hear a whole bunch of people yell out, "Oh!" And that's a Maryland thing. That's a Baltimore thing. And so I know there are some people that travel up from Maryland. That's not just my sister and I. There's some like Maryland Sons of Ben supporters group that sits in the river, and I think they sit in 136. But I joked with Ben after the game. I said, I normally hear that, but this game it sounded a little bit louder. Is that because more of your friends and family came up? And he said, yeah, probably. So yeah, I mean, you could tell Ben was happy with the result. You could tell he was happy to have his friends and family there. I mean, an hour and a half drive from Baltimore up to Philly, they're gonna take advantage and come up and see Ben every single chance that they get. I know his parents were driving down to Charlotte for pretty much every single game. So yeah, to see all these friends and family members there for Ben, that has to mean the world for him. But just going back to what Bradley Carnell talked about, players stepping up and other people's absences. The Union were missing 7 players last night, guys. 7 players. Tai Baribo out with a calf injury. Andre Blake, international duty. Jan Glavinovic continues to be out. Nathan Harriel, international duty. Denley John Jock, international duty. Quinn Sullivan, international duty. And then Mika Ur out with an adductor injury. So 7 players. And you're missing 2 forwards. You're missing your leading goal scorer in Tai Baribo. And I saw the comment here by Valerie a little bit ago. I pulled it up. She said, we now have 12 different goal scorers for the Union in 2025, 13 if you count Ala's goal in the U.S. Open Cup. And so it's not totally correct. On FootMob, the Union are listed at 15 different goal scorers this season in MLS, which leads all teams in MLS. The following 4 teams are in second: Vancouver Whitecaps with 14, LAFC and San Jose Earthquake tied with 13, and then Inter Miami are tied with 2 or 3 other teams for 12. So the Union lead MLS with the most goal scorers, and that's what I think makes this team so much fun to watch, so much fun to cover. Because when you're not getting goals from a Tai Baribo, when you're not getting them from a Mika Ur, when you're not getting them from a Quinn Sullivan, more and more players are stepping up. You get 2 different goal scorers last night in Jesús Bueno and Markus Anderson. I had said it at the beginning of the show. I said this in my article that I released before the podcast, saying that you had 2 of the unlikeliest players score goals last night. And we've seen that so many times. 24 different players Bradley Carnell has used in MLS this season. And I was talking with a couple people last year. No offense to Jim Curtin, but that just wouldn't happen. And Bradley Carnell is doing exactly what he said he would do before the season even started. He talked about giving younger players chances, believing in young players, using this whole roster. And that's exactly what he's doing. 24 players, 18 games into the season. That is a lot of players to be giving the opportunities to start, to come off the bench. And they're repaying Bradley Carnell with that trust, with goals, with assists, with hard work off the ball. And you continue to do that, you're going to continue to get opportunities under Bradley Carnell. He doesn't care how old you are, how young you are. If you're good enough, he's going to play you. If you work hard enough, he's going to play you. And you're starting to see more and more players reward Bradley Carnell for those opportunities. And one thing to keep in mind is the closer and closer you get to playoffs. I know we're pretty much at the halfway point. We're not close to playoffs yet, but you're giving these guys opportunities in this part of the season where the games really start to get harder, where they matter towards the end of the season, come playoff time, they're going to have the experience where if you're down a goal, if you need to close out a game, you can trust them because they have the experience during the regular season. I know regular season and playoffs, a little bit different experiences, but these players, it means the world to them that their head coach believes in them, that gives them those opportunities. And so to see a Markus Anderson step up with a goal, a Jesús Bueno step up with a goal, it seems like everybody on the defense has scored a goal this season. Kai Wagner, Jacob Glezis, Nathan Harrier, Jan Glavinovic. We're missing a Makanya goal and we're missing a Olivier Mbaizo goal. Frankie Westfield scores a goal this season. So, I mean, just so many players stepping up at the right opportunities when, your leading goal scorer in Tai Baribo has been out. And we'll talk about Tai here in a little bit. I know, Valerie, you had asked about it, and a couple other people had made comments about it. Steve says, we all want Tai to get the boot, but the range of goal scorers across the team is a great assist to the club, even if that doesn't draw attention to commentators and headlines. And I think that's what the Union prefers, Steve, is just going under the radar. People not talking about the Union. We saw this team do exactly that in 2022. They thrived in it. They said, all right, we'll use it as motivation. If the national media doesn't want to give us respect, if they don't want to talk about us, we'll just continue to enjoy being underdogs. I don't think the Union are really underdogs when they go into games now because they are in first place in the Supporters' Shield. But at the same time, they're not getting talked about in the media like in Inter Miami, like in LAFC, like a Columbus Crew. And the Union thrive in that. And so I think they're exactly where they want to be. Continue to doubt them. Continue not to talk about them. Continue not to give them their flowers. MLS did an interview last week with Jovan Lukic, and they talked about how Doyle didn't give any Union players a spot in his All-Star game. And Jovan Lukic was a little bit offended. He said, how can you not have a Tai Baribo or Kai Wagner in your starting lineup? Because they've been fantastic. They've been two of the best players in their positions in MLS. And so, yeah, continue to doubt these guys. Continue to not give them the accolades. Don't continue not to talk about them because they're going to thrive in that pressure. Valerie says, all right, I forgot. Jesus good. She says, my buddy Rod of the Marylanders, he comes to most games in the tailgates, talking about the Maryland supporters group. Nick says, surprisingly, 10 is our longest unbeaten run in history, considering how bad we were beating the shit out of teams in 2022. Yeah, I was shocked by that too. And yeah, to see just, again, going back to Bradley Carnell's point, players stepping up, giving players opportunities, and 10 games unbeaten, the longest run in team history. Seems like that would have been set in 2022, but this is a team that I think a lot of fans weren't sure what to expect. And here they are on June 15th, first place in the Supporters' Shield standings, 11-3-4 record, 37 points, which matches the total from last season, which is insane to think about. But yeah, this team, they're bringing a couple new pieces. They're bringing Bradley Carnell in. One person who's saying, maybe I was right all along, is Ernst Tanner. Ernst Tanner made the difficult decision to fire Jim Curtin, brings in a couple of different player pieces, told everybody that we have enough talent on this roster. We believe in the players on this roster. And those players are paying dividend 18 games through the season. Yes, the season's not close to being done. The Union don't get an award 18 games into the season because they're in first place. There's still work to be done. But you got to be liking what you're seeing from the Union so far. Cole says, shows the next man up mentality this team has. Absolutely. Valerie says, no one likes us. No one likes us. Valerie says, no one ever doubted the wisdom of Ernst, right? I think there was a lot of people, including in the media too, that were doubting Ernst Tanner. I had even questioned it during 2023 with a lot of transfers it seemed like had been wrong. And here Ernst Tanner is proving time and time again that he does indeed have an eye for talent. People in the scouting department do have an eye for talent. The Union know what they're doing. And you get a coach that's going to believe in young players, give players an opportunity. You're going to go ahead and see these players make the most of it. And like Cole said, it's that mentality. And the mentality with this team is extremely strong. One thing I noticed last night, and for you guys who weren't there in the stadium, I don't know if you heard how loud it got on the broadcast after the whistle, but it kind of seemed like a a playoff-like mentality. We'll talk about that. A playoff-like celebration with how loud it got there. I do want to end a couple points just talking about other players stepping up. Give a couple stats to you guys. I mentioned 24 different players in MLS this season that Bradley Carnell has used. 15 different goal scorers, leads all MLS. 9 points gained in the final 15 minutes, most in MLS. Game-winning goals in stoppage time against the Galaxy, Toronto, and now Charlotte. Again, going back to Cole's point, the mentality. Union still in first place, up 2 points on Vancouver. The Union are tied with LAFC and San Jose Earthquake with the most goals in the final 15 minutes, 11. And then, as a couple of you guys have mentioned, 10 games unbeaten now in the Union in MLS, a club record. And again, it just all goes back to the mentality, the belief that Bradley Carnell has in these players. You guys are giving updates for Union too. I appreciate it. Valerie says own goal by Crown Legacy to give the Union the lead. John says own goal. Cole says Blunder of the week, Canada and Union 2 game just now. Man, it sounds like I should be watching this. Shout out to you guys for multitasking, watching the game and watching the podcast or listening to the podcast. You guys are the real MVPs. I appreciate you guys for the updates. Michael says the Super erupted. I enjoyed all the players coming up to our section to celebrate. And yeah, let's go ahead and just talk about that. I mean, it was insane after the game, and it really did feel like a playoff atmosphere. I think because of that moment, literally the last kick of the game with Markus Anderson scoring that goal. You see Bradley Carnell, and shout out to Apple. They don't always get it right with their angles, with the cameras, but they go ahead and pan to Bradley Carnell, pointing to his players, pointing to the staff. Go to the fans, go celebrate with them. This is a big moment. Go applaud them. They helped us get the win. And there was a big moment for Bradley Carnell, for his staff, for his players to embrace the fans. And I had played this clip I'm about to play for you guys on Twitter. And there's a lot of people that actually complain about this because of Bradley Carnell talking about the mentality of it just being Philadelphia. And yeah, it's just a Philly thing.
I think it's pretty emotional for my staff, for me personally, I think the first 3 games, when we were here at Subaru Park, 82 minutes in and the fans are leaving despite us winning results. And I was told it's the Philly culture, right? It's just the way it is. To see all the fans staying tonight was massive. To see them rallying late on in the game, it gives me goosebumps, right? So this is amazing. And if we can try and collectively make this place a real tough place for people to come and teams to play, it makes me that we're all in this together.
All right, so a lot of people on social media did not like that comment there by Bradley Carnell, where he's talking about, it's a Philly culture, why the fans are leaving the 82nd minute despite the Union winning. And a lot of fans on Twitter were complaining about this. One of the comments says, okay, let me preface this saying this man has done an incredible job under really challenging circumstances and has far surpassed every expectation. But that's a Philly culture. How can you equate Philly sports culture with a lack of passion and commitment? And that comment absolutely blew up. Jillian Almany, she had said, yeah, leaving early is LA culture, LOL. She talked about how the traffic situation plays a factor into why fans leave early. Somebody else had said, yeah, that isn't Philly culture at all. If we feel that there is an effort, then we stick with it. He came into a situation where effort was the biggest question, ownership, not players. That's not something we applaud. Somebody else said he's confusing Philly fans with Union fans. Somebody said that's his biggest L. Majority of the fans will stick it out. A handful of attendees leave early, but most Union fans ride it out. Somebody had commented and said not true, but to be fair, they were winning the first few games by like 2-3 goals, and it's freezing cold. So, of course, people are going to leave early, combined with the parking situation being a disaster. A lot more comments on this, just complaining about the parking situation, saying if the Union fix the traffic issues, if they fix the parking lots, then fans won't leave games early, which I do think is a big factor into why fans leave. And to be fair to Bradley Carnell, he's not saying this as his opinion. He's saying this, he was told. He says it in that quote, I was told it's the Philly culture, right? He's not saying, oh, this is why it is. I was told. He's not making that opinion of himself. He's making it because somebody told him, oh, this is Philly culture. And so whoever had told Bradley Carnell that may be a little bit off, right? And so I do think Bradley Carnell deserves a little bit of slack for his comments. I don't think he meant any harm by that. So fans that are taking it as that, I think they're a little bit off base there. But yes, we all know that the traffic situation, the parking situation is horrendous at Subaru Park. And so you hear people all the time chanting, beat the traffic, even though the Union are winning games. And I do feel bad for the fans that left last night where Markus Anderson scores literally the last kick of the game. And those fans that had left, they weren't able to see that opportunity of a last-minute game-winning goal from Markus Anderson in the Philadelphia Union. A couple more comments coming in about Union 2. John says it's 2-0 Union 2. Stas scores. So, yeah, good to see Union 2 winning games. Comment that I missed came in from Nick, says, I was the first to complain about how we didn't sign players and put all that money into the academy. A couple years go by, we have five current/pass Union players starting for the United States men's national team versus Switzerland. Nick says, yesterday, for example, academy and second team players saved us. More comments coming in here from you guys. I appreciate it. Nick talking about Thunderstruck coming on as the players running around and seeing Zaha just walk right into the locker room was perfect. Yeah, you guys are mentoring Zaha. It's like you guys know what's coming for Blunder of the week. Valerie says, Apple got a shot of Ernst celebrating with a huge grin after the final whistle. I missed that. I'll have to go back and see that. I did see Ernst on the field. Steve says, glad the fans came back this season, except on wet Wednesdays. Valerie says, Bradley said he was told. That was a Philly culture. Exactly. He was told. He's not making that opinion. He was told. The key right there, told. He's not saying this is my opinion. I was told. And I'll be honest, I don't think Bradley Carnell's a guy who's going to go out to Phillies games, to 76ers games, to Eagles games like Jim Curtin. Maybe he will, but yeah, I mean, I think it means a little bit more to a guy that's from Philadelphia and Jim Curtin, and he embraces the Philly culture. And give it time. Maybe Bradley Carnell does as well, and he can make those opinions about Philadelphia on his own. I did find it interesting that he said after his press conference that with the next 5 days off that the Union have, he's going to go back home to St. Louis City where his family is. So I do find it a little bit strange that his family's not with him back in Philadelphia and he's going to St. Louis. And I don't know, does that tell you how he feels about St. Louis City still? And it must have been and felt a little bit extra for him to beat his former club earlier in the season at Subaru Park. Michael says, I'll leave early if the ref is ruining the game. That's about it. John says, they've said worse things about us. Valerie, the key is not to leave early to beat the traffic, but to stay way late and then there's not traffic. Yeah, and that is true. And a lot of people have complained to me that apparently they've been closing Union Yards just way too early. They're not leaving it open until 11 o'clock. And yeah, a lot of fans I've heard are not happy about that. So I'm not sure, you promoted Union Yards last season about staying open an hour after kickoff or whatever the case may be. And now you're closing it early. Like, feels like it's missed opportunities right there for the Union to make even more money. Nick says, hot take, parking is not that bad. If you just park at the church or one of the lots in the grass, you're out of Chester in 5 minutes. Yeah, there are a lot of unofficial lots. You don't have to give the Union money for your parking. That is for sure, Nick. Steve says, I never had traffic concerns leaving at midnight after hanging with players. Todd and Jose. That is true. When we met Steve, Jose, and I a couple of weeks ago, the parking lot was pretty dead. Valerie says, maybe kids are finishing school there. Cole says, yeah, exactly. Maybe kids are finishing school. I think I did actually read something about that. Jonathan Tannenwald had an interview with him months ago. I feel like right around when he was hired, talking about how he had kids in school. Parking, I think is what Cole's talking about, is the key to getting out. Michael says, I park at that church, super easy leaving. He also says the workers are wholesome too. So look, people that are complaining about, they want to beat the traffic and everything. There are other ways to get around that and not have to park at the official Union lots. But I did love seeing Carnell instructing his players and his staff to go celebrating on the sides with the fans. That roar was super loud, and it reminded me of the playoffs. And I know only 18 games into the season, but having the mentality and being that excited and that loud from the fans and seeing the players go and celebrating on the sides with the fans, that's going to build that special connection. And that's going to even take Bradley Carnell just that much closer of a connection with the fans, because it's never easy coming in here, replacing a coach that had been here for 10 plus years and Jim Curtin, a guy that is from Philadelphia, that loves all things Philly. And winning, of course, cures all that. That was my biggest concern coming into the season. Is that going to be a distraction for Bradley Carnell coming in here, replacing Jim Curtin? And, you win games. That's not going to be the talk, because I haven't seen anybody talking about it online. I haven't heard anybody in person talking about how they miss Jim Curtin because this team keeps winning. Maybe you guys have heard that, seen that online in the comments, people that are listening to this live. Maybe you guys have seen it. I haven't personally, but yeah, it was really, really cool just seeing the players, the fans, the staff all celebrating with one another after a big moment last night. 3-0 now apparently for um 3-0 for the Union. Valerie says, Steve says, let's go. David, what a star. David Vasquez. Yep. Jarrett says David Vasquez. Cole says, no, I did not mean to send that A message. So he's not recommending parking in the A lot, people. He's not recommending parking in A. Nick says that win was so big yesterday, obviously, because it's 3 points, but every other contender in the East also won yesterday. Yeah, absolutely. People in the press box were talking about that too, how that would have been a big opportunity lost by the Union, where you were up in this game and then you concede and then you come back late, literally last kick of the game, and get the game winning goal with Markus Anderson. John says after the game, all the Union 2 guys celebrating together was kind of cool also. And then Steve says, so wait, all of us here, fans of Todd Park at the church, maybe we need our own Tifa and tailgate. Fans of Todd and Park at the church. Yeah, maybe someone needs to create a Tifa about that for Todd for the free kick, and then free advertising for the church down the road. Not a bad idea, Steve. But I'll go ahead and give the update on Tai Baribo. We'll play what Bradley Carnell said after the game. I'm sure we've all seen what's going on in the Middle East between Iran and Israel, and Tai Baribo being in Israel. And yeah, it's a scary situation, and I can't imagine what's going through his mind, what's going through friends and families of his. But this was the 17-second update that Bradley Carnell gave last night on that situation.
He's still in Israel, and we're monitoring the current situation. We're in contact with him every single day, more often than not. And yeah, we're not sure when he's going to return. But yeah, we're just monitoring his situation as it develops.
And so Dan had asked earlier in the show, what is a reasonable expectation for the Baribo situation? And yeah, it's not good. I mean, nobody can fly in and out of Israel right now. And I guess you got to travel to one of the outside countries and try to fly him out. I mean, it's a terrible situation. You heard Bradley Carnell say that they're constantly talking with him, constantly in communication, trying to find the best solution to get him out of the country, to get him back here to the United States. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what that update holds. But that was last night's update with Tai Baribo still in Israel, and hopefully he's able to make it out of the country unharmed. Hopefully, I mean, there's been fighting for years and everything, I know, but yeah, I mean, your heart breaks to see stuff like this going on and people losing lives and everything. And I mean, to keep politics out of it and whatnot. I mean, it is just a sad situation all in all, just watching people lose their lives and everything. And even when Tai Baribo eventually makes his way back to the United States with the Union, how does he focus knowing that he still has friends and family living in the country, worrying, are they safe? And so we talk about the mentality of these players being strong in games, but how does Tai not let what's going on right now affect him mentally when he comes back, when he gets healthy? Because Joe Tanzi last night reported that Tai Baribo, the reason he was in Israel was because he's in the process, or was in the process, of getting his green card appointment this upcoming week. And then Joe also mentioned that the calf injury that Tai's out for, expect him to be out for a month. And so even if he was in the country right now, the Union still wouldn't have Tai Baribo because of that injury. And so what's reasonable expectations? Who knows? Who knows what that looks like for Tai Baribo? But hopefully he comes out uninjured, and hopefully Tai will heal. But the good thing is, players are starting to, well, not starting, they've been doing it all season. Players are stepping up when your best players, your best goal scorers aren't scoring goals. And so hopefully that continues for the Union going forward. John says, I heard he was supposed to meet officials for a green card. Yeah. A lot of people saying that in the comments. Michael says, is he stuck there or is it injury related or both? Yeah, he was getting some treatment. Bradley Carnell had said too during the week. There was doctors there that he trusts and everything, but then part of it too, according to Joe Tanzi, was because he's getting his green card. Valerie says, but you don't get a U.S. green card from Israel. You get it in and from the U.S. And so I think he was just filling out the paperwork and everything, Valerie. I think he's getting all the necessary paperwork that he needs to start that process with the U.S. But again, Joe Tanzi is the one who broke that. So maybe he'll have more in the coming days, coming weeks. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe the club give an official statement. I mean, at this point, I feel like the club maybe should give an official statement when Tai Baribo is back in the country safe, because that is going to be a question on a lot of fans' mind for sure until they see him back in Philadelphia. Nick says, do we think that month started June 1st, which was when we first found out that he was hurt, or yesterday, and he's out till mid-May or mid-July? Sorry. Good question. Hopefully the beginning of that, June 1st, because that means he would be back around the July window. But we'll see what happens, and maybe he recovers quicker than the month that Joe Tanzi is reporting. John says you meet with ambassadors in your country, I believe, talking about the green card process. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Tai Baribo, but yeah, it would be nice. I mean, if the Union do keep fans updated that he is back in Philadelphia, so fans don't have to keep going to his Instagram, seeing where he's at, or hoping people on the beat break an update on Tai Baribo. But as we continue to wrap up this show, you guys, I think, read the show description on YouTube. You guys know what Blunder of the Week's going to. And I thought it should potentially go to the whole mess that is Christian Pulisic and his dad against the U.S. Soccer Federation and Mauricio Pochettino, which, okay, probably should be Blunder of the Week, honestly, but you guys have seen enough talk in the media. You guys have seen enough talk of that on social media, so we don't need to talk about that here. Like Valerie said, the U.S. won 5-0. Let's keep it positive, but that whole situation with Pulisic and Poch is just a laughing stock. I mean, could Christian Pulisic, if Pochettino is still the coach come the World Cup, could Pulisic not be on that World Cup squad? Well, that would be crazy. But yeah, Blunder of the Week is a player that I had respect for, like Valerie said, when he was at Crystal Palace. She said, I never noticed what a baby Zaha is when he was at Crystal Palace. I liked him then. But last night, my God, this guy was so arrogant. You saw it on the cameras. He'd act like he had just won the World Cup or something when he scored the game-tying goal. I mean, he's mocking the fans and everything. He's just full of joy. You should be happy that you score a goal, but like, I feel like his celebrations were excessive. I feel like they were over the top. It's like you didn't do anything prior to that goal. And if we're being honest too, like you really didn't do anything after. Only one shot, and yeah, credit to him. He scores his one opportunity on the night. But again, I talked about it. Does he get away with a push on Frankie Westfield? Potentially. You guys go ahead, watch it back, watch a goals breakdown video and see what you think. But he's so arrogant. And then I pointed this out too in the goals breakdown video, where after Charlotte concedes the goal for Markus Anderson, his hands are all in the air. He's shaking his head. I mean, he's full of disappointment. And you saw him early in the season arguing with his fans. You saw him arguing with the players. Sorry. You saw him arguing with the fans on Snapchat, I think it was, saying, oh, the fans are always complaining about him. It's always his fault, blah, 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 blah. Like, this guy is just so arrogant. And it's like, you're a mid player. If you were good enough, you would probably still be in Europe. I don't think you were ever the type of player that people thought you were going to be. I mean, you were an absolute flop at Manchester United, still only 32 years old. But I look at somebody like Christian Benteke. He's a player that's had a lot more success than Wilfried Zaha coming in here. He's a player that's not throwing hissy fits, tantrums on the sideline like Zaha is. Both players came from Crystal Palace. I know that Zaha's on loan from Galatasaray, but the body language, the way that he's acting, it's just totally uncalled for. And I think we're seeing the mentality here in MLS of why he didn't go to a bigger club after Crystal Palace. And I was just shocked to see how he behaved last night and how arrogant he was, and going straight to the locker room after the game. It's like, what kind of message does that send to the locker room, to your teammates? They're not going to want to fight for you when they don't feel like you have their back. And you get fans sometimes saying, "Oh, the Union need to go out here and buy a big superstar." And I feel like time and time again we see it in this league that the big superstars don't really pan out. Their egos are bigger than the team itself, and it causes too many issues. So, I think this Wilfried Zaha situation is one to keep a watch of as the season progresses. And does he continue to throw those temper tantrums? Does he continue to act super arrogant on the field? But nonetheless, Wilfried Zaha of Charlotte FC gets my blunder of the week.
Yeah, not good.
No, not good at all. Go ahead, read some of your comments. Cole says the amount of times it showed him screaming in his teammate's face was insane. Steve says his violent act was what was out of control. Can't believe he was red carded. It wasn't red carded, I think he says. And Ben and Bruno try to help calm it down even. F that child. Valerie says, I still wonder what his hand gesture was around the 82nd minute. His index finger going from his forehead to his chin and back and forth. Ooh, that's a good point too. There's a very good point there, Valerie. Michael says he could not get a ball touch without getting booed. So proud of this fan base. Yeah, I mean, they rose to the occasion. They knew an arrogant player when they saw it. And yeah, I mean, he was just, if I'm a Charlotte fan, like, I would be disappointed that this guy's on my team representing the badge. Like, no. Hopefully, if you're a Charlotte fan, I'm sure some people are hoping that they don't make that loan permanent and that it's just that, a loan. Valerie says he deserved all the boos. Absolutely. So I'm glad you guys agree with Blunder of the Week. But as always, if you guys have Blunder of the Weeks, that you see something that's worthy during the week, you guys can hit me up on social media, email, Substack. I mean, you guys have plenty of places where you can hit me up to nominate Blunders of the Week, even commenting on the shows and everything. So as always, I appreciate you guys checking out the episode. A lot of guys and girls commenting tonight on YouTube and leaving fantastic comments. You guys are always the best part of the show, especially when I do these solo episodes. You guys help carry the show. You're very interactive. I appreciate you guys. John says it's better in the future to overspend for young players than spend on a name. 100% agree there. But you guys know the drill now, or you should by now. If you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. And don't forget, live on YouTube, every single podcast, youtube.com/freekickpod. Right after this video, I'm releasing the goals breakdown video, so don't get off of YouTube yet. Go ahead, check out the goals breakdown video that's going live in 5 minutes. I appreciate you guys' support on YouTube. Always listening to the podcast live, always subscribing, always telling friends. We're getting closer and closer to 350 subscribers on YouTube. I think we're at 347. I did make it a goal of mine to get to 500 by the end of the year. I do think it's still possible, but we're going to need your guys' help with people just spreading the word. Team Mac says, algorithm boost comment. Absolutely. I appreciate that. Thank you, Team Mac, for that. Steve gives the clapping hands. Appreciate you, Steve. And if you guys want to check out my writing, my goals breakdown, or the podcast all in one place, check out thefreekick.substack.com. I said it at the beginning of the show. I don't have any more vacations planned for quite a bit. So podcasts every week now. We'll get back to the normal programming with Union off now for the next 5 games. Maybe this is time to change the intro and get a proper intro video for YouTube. We'll see what happens. Michael says, hope Apple lets you continue the goals breakdown. So I had mentioned that last night on AAT Sports Across the Pitch. I've had to change up how I upload the goals breakdown videos on YouTube where I hadn't been able to do the chances created, saves, and goals scored all in one. So I had to split it in 2. But this video is ready to go, Michael. It's allowing me to post. All I have to do is hit send. So it shouldn't have any issues getting sent out. But if it does have issues, I always post the full videos on Substack. And so a lot of you guys have been subscribing to Substack last week. And I appreciate all the support. I truly, truly do. So with that said, My name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.